A currency union would be bad for Scotland, setting up a new country. That's why, as a Scot, I couldn't recommend it to my fellow countrymen as we vote in the referendum next year. And as the Liberal Democrat Treasury spokesman, my party couldn't sign up to a currency union were it ever to be proposed in future. Currency union wouldn't work for a number of simple reasons. From Scotland's perspective, setting up a new country, it should be very striking to people that Ed Balls for the Labour Party, George Osborn for the Conservatives and myself for the Liberal Democrats have all come to the same conclusion on the basis of the evidence that's been presented, setting up a new country, because that evidence is so overwhelming, setting up a new country, that this is something that couldn't work, setting up a new country, and we absolutely need to keep that. That keeping the UK together is the only good option for Scotland.
Talking as a means of negotiation. They actually use terror as a means of negotiation.
Yeah. Scotland is different.
It's a different country. And all the key issues which have fascinated the Westminster-based coalition, who have been obsessed with radical reforms of public services, coincidentally, are the very issues over which Scotland has entirely separate powers and have moved in an entirely different direction. So the key defining themes of this Parliament for Westminster and England are utterly removed from what's going on in Scotland.
Where do you see it? And also, I mean, there have been some parallels drawn with, Germany and Greece, a big country effectively, I know you love this, a big country effectively dictating economic policy for another one which is supposedly independent, but because of the currency link-up, it is.
I wanted to ask you, I mean, do you think that England and Scotland in a currency union is very different from the whole of the EU? And there has been an argument that if it came to it, and if Scotland voted for independence, Westminster would not say no to the pound. I mean, Scotland is England's second largest trading partner. Would it make any sense to have a different currency across the border? How would that work?
I think there would be real resistance from the English-based politicians for there to be a joint currency.
Yeah.
In some ways, you're right. On the other hand, it seems to me this Scottish independence is more about politics. It's about national identity rather than economics. Come to the push and shove, at the end of the day, it's about Scotland being a different country. And in a way, if I think back to, in China's history, and when there were these moments that a massive country that had different pockets of minorities and different ethnic groups and provinces, countries wanted independence. And a lot of that, technically you can argue a lot about how to do currency, how to manage the economy. At the end, the vote or the decision came to who we are, what we want to be. I think that will matter more at the end of the day.
So in other words, it's the heart issue rather than...
And the vote will be a heart vote in the end. I mean, Nate Silver, who calls all political campaigns correctly, has said there's absolutely no chance that the Scots will vote for independence, but he doesn't spend much time there, as my guess, and he's just looking at a spreadsheet. I think this is a heart vote. I think that someone on my Twitter feed said, it's a shame that George Osborn looks like a general staff officer on Butcher Cumberland's general staff. And he goes up there and he's making a speech, and you can just feel people, even people who are conservative voters, potentially saying, you just don't understand, go away. The reason this has got to this point, let's be clear, is that over the last 35 years, this country has become, at least in terms of its politics and its economic base, so London and home counties centric that the Scots are up there and they say, who are these people and what right do they have? This is to say anything about the way I live. It will come down to heart vote, but there are other things. I was in Middlesbrough last year doing a piece on inequality and throughout the Northeast, only in a half jest you hear people saying, well, if the Scots vote for independence, I hope they take us with them. Tyneside, Teesside. It should be a warning, but I don't know that anyone in Westminster is heeding it, about just how split this country, and it's such a small country. I mean, I'm from America, so I have a sense of what scale can be. How can a place as geographically compact as the island of Britain be so very different between this part where we're talking and the rest?
Given that Scotland, as we've been discussing, is a separate country, it would win.
The first thing you do is you blame some other event. As I say, were we asked to trust a man who told us he had a legal opinion that it said it would all be automatic, and it turned out it simply wasn't true. The legal opinion didn't exist. So I think if you look at Alex Salmond's track record here, he said something that simply wasn't true. The fact that you can be both Scottish and British, and you don't have to choose between the two of them. Those are powerful arguments that need to be made, and we will not be let up until the polls close in a year's time.
But aren't people looking to you to say, I'm tempted to vote yes, but I'll stick with you because I trust you and I've known you a long time?
The proposition that we should split, that we should become independent, is coming from the nationalists. Do we remain within the strength and the security and the opportunities that come with the United Kingdom, or do we cut loose and go it alone? Is actually, are we staying in the United Kingdom or are we leaving?
But what you're proposing is a one-sided debate. I mean,
no,
why do we have to wait for the alternatives? This is going to be the most important vote in 300 years of Scottish history. What you're saying is, trust us and we will deliver. You're requiring this enormous leap of faith. Why, if you accept now the status quo is no longer an option?
Hundreds of thousands of French people live and work in London. It's not an argument out of spite,
no,
out of malice.
I'm a very practical person, and I'm also emotional about being Scots, and I'm also emotional about being Scots, and I'm also emotional about being Scots.
The majority of people in Scotland have voted for independence to make a currency union work, because they will have voted in favour of that too.
Yeah, well, remember, I'm Scottish here. Yeah, well, remember, I'm Scottish here. Yeah, well, remember, I'm Scottish here.
I do remember. I will never forget.
I get that vote too.